Hello, everyone, my dear viewers, and thank you for coming to my channel. And before you start the video, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. I will be very pleased, so let's go. In pursuit of their personal goals, the human teenagers of the Isaiah Sakamaki, the Asuka, are transferred to an alternate reality, a small garden, where there are different races with different abilities or gifts. There, they meet a black rabbit, a girl with rabbit ears, which makes her judge a master who sets the rules and regulations, as she is the servant of the creator of a small garden. The girl explains the logic of this place to the guys. Small gardens revolve around games that pose different dangers, and at stake is anything on both sides. The black rabbit also invites them to its player community, heading to the countryside in the east. The girl leaves the Asuka her with the leader of my society, Jin, after noticing that because of her, separated from them in search of entertainment. While the rest of us wait for the return of the black rabbit because of the Yoya, Aske, Yo again face the Galda Gasper, who is the leader of a community called the Ferris Garo, and he invites the girls to join his community with the black rabbit. To persuade them, he ridicules how the Jin community was forced to become nameless after losing an indisputable challenge from tyrannical demons lords of a small garden, causing the community to lose its official name and banner. And the remaining members were the Jinny, the black rabbit, and about 120 at the age of 10 and under, which is impossible to do in the returns of the banner and the name. At the same time, the black rabbit, having found Isaiah after defeating the water god, explains to him their situation in the hope that the three can help. A guy who likes the idea of fighting stronger opponents agrees. With his gift, the Asuka discovers that Galda has kidnapped women and children from other communities in order to blackmail them into doing his bidding. But he broke his promises and killed them all, which eventually pissed off the girls, and they called him to the game the next day. On the next day, after the black rabbit has escaped, the group visits the Shirawash, the demon lord of 1,000 eyes, the leader of an extremely large trading community, to appreciate the gifts yet arrived. Unlike others like her, Shirawash decided to use his power for peace by becoming the owner of the east side of the small garden. The boys decide to challenge her to a game in which she is defeated by befriending the griffin and overcoming his ordeal, using her gift of accepting the powers of other animals she befriends. From the Shiro, the children receive cards showing their gifts, and the gift is signed by an unknown person. As a result of the victory over the god of water, and for it, and gets an infinite supply of water from a water tree, which he allows to use Nameless. The ascot then borrows a dress from a black rabbit that gives the wearer an extra aura of protection. On the same night, the subordinate Galda infiltrate the unnamed, but are found by the henchmen, who inform them that all the hostages have already been killed and say that the Jin can defeat all the demon lords, although the latter disagrees with this idea. When Issei says bad things about some of their former members, the Jinny says that their teammate was at stake in the game and promises to save that teammate if the Aske, her and the Jinny can win the game tomorrow. The next day, everyone does not get to the residence of the Galda, which was shrouded in a tangled forest of vines, and he himself turned into a beast. However, the rules do not allow the three to use their gifts, forcing them to defeat the Galda using special weapons. Jin, by the surrounding magic, determines that she is vampire, suspecting involvement from the other side. After learning that their sword is stuck in the wall, she is distracted by the Galda, and the Asuka orders the Gin to run away alone first, but, due to circumstances, leaves with him. When she returns injured and faints, the Asuka returns to the residence, sets it on fire, and lures the Galda into the woods. She uses the vine to hold her in the sphere, orders the sword to give her all its power, and kills him, winning the game. An unnamed man with black and white hair stays to the shirtless. While E continues to recover, the black rabbit is debated behind the U. Their next step is to save the Reticia of Dracula, a pure-blood vampire, a former demon lord, and the Jinny companion they talked about earlier. However, their conversation is interrupted by a vampire who helped the Galda, and it is none other than Leticia herself. She apologizes for having caused them trouble, as she only wanted to know the extent of the newcomer's abilities, but came to the conclusion that their gifts were too weak to save the community and wanted the Black Rabbit to dissolve it. The two-colored man decides to attack the Nameless, and Letitia sacrifices himself to protect the Aske. The Black Rabbit discovers that the vampire has lost all her powers and has become a regular vampire. The Persian henchmen take the girl, and the group will take him to a duel. The game involves invading a life fortress, and only those who can reach it undetected are allowed to challenge it. But all the guards have gifts of invisibility because of helmets. The Asuka distracts most of the guards while E helps the Isaiah and the Jin obtain one of the copies of the helmet and steal the real artifact using echolocation. Instead of standing up to them, the barking plays its trump card. Gorgon, a former demon lord who turns everyone outside the Colosseum into a stone, and attacks the Zayoi, who easily defeats her with his power. Though the barking concedes defeat, refuses Letitia, the boy gives him a chance to fight back in a fistfight, raising the stakes of the game where the Persians must place their banner. And of course he loses. Letitia returns to the community as a servant in gratitude for her rescue. They celebrate together and vow to put their banner in the sky. The guys come to the festival in the northeastern part of the garden from Sandra Dort Lake, the leader of the salamander community, who was also a friend of the Jinni. Despite the high cost of the trip, E, Asuka, and Iu go to the festival with a Jin and a fox girl named Lily, leaving a note to the Black Rabbit threatening to leave the community if she does not catch them during the day. The guys go to the balloon to get help shipping, and the Black Rabbit catches her. After that, he concludes a new game with her. The loser will do anything, and he collapses the building, so the game ends in a draw. Because of this, they are greeted by military police salamanders led by the brother of Sandra. Meanwhile, the mask noticed the lost fairy and decided to follow her along with the Letitia, while the Shiro invited her to the tournament. Since no one was hurt during the game between the Black Rabbit and Isaiah, Sandra decides to leave them unpunished. The Scarlet asks them to protect the Sandra by destroying the demon lord mentioned in the prophecy that must attack them. Asuka gets along with a fairy from another community. She goes to an art exhibition where she is struck by the armor made by this community. However, she is attacked by rats she cannot control and rescued by Letitia. Later, Shirayash explains that the rat manipulator is connected to a community called the Gatherer of the Hameling, who once worked under a demon lord. After discussion, everyone came to the conclusion that he was an aide to the demon lord of the Grimoire, who would attack during the festival. When they stop their meeting, the Shiro warns everyone to be on guard and protect the Sandra, causing the lawsuit to question the identity of the little fairy along with her. The tournament begins, where he stands up against Aisha in his status of the community of Will of the Wise, and her greatest gift is the jack-lantern. In the face of an immortal demon, he surrenders. Although she could have asked someone for help from her community, she was unwilling to rely on others. And then the black pages start falling from the sky, inviting everyone to join the game. The goal of the game is to reveal a false legend, and a barrier appears around the Shirayash, preventing it from participating in this. Above the arena, there are members of the Pied Piper community from the hamlet. Because of E come into battle with the Weathermen, the embodiment of the river Weather from the fairy tale. Letitia and Sandra are also fighting the Pest, the demon lord of the Black Plague. Meanwhile, Aske, Yu, and Jin are trying to figure out how to break the Shirosha barrier. Raven, the embodiment of a rat, is a fairy tale and so, who attacked the Asuka at an art exhibition, gains control over the inhabitants of the salamander with the help of his flute. Asuka forces the Jinni to flee, wanting to defeat Raven, but loses. As chaos reigns in the salamander, the Black Rabbit uses his power as Judge Master to suspend the game, and asks both sides to meet. The unnamed try to confirm the details of the game from the Pesta, which is also the leader of the community and the host of the game. But the rules are confirmed as fair and observed even without details. Fest reveals that it is spreading pathogens all over the city to infect people. Not for nothing the plague. After discovering that their community wants to recruit more people through threats, E changes the rules to allow the Black Rabbit to play the game, and postpones the game for a week. Meanwhile, The mask is held captive in a dark cave along with a small fairy. When she regains consciousness, the lost souls of the 130 children who died in the history of the Pied Piper from Homely appear. They ask the Osuks to help them end a complicated legend in exchange for their din armor if it can make them fit for the game. 4 days later, the salamanders feel the symptoms of the Black Plague. The boys recall the stained glass windows depicting the Gamel Pied Piper scattered throughout the city and decide that they must break them apart from the one depicting the true legend. On the day of the game, the Izio and other members of the salamander smashed the stained glass with a complex legend. Opponents change their location and double their strength. The Vizar again encounters the Ezi, the Black Rabbit, and the salamander fight hand in hand against the Pesto, while the Jinnies fight the Saradin and its ceramic monsters. It is at this moment that the Asuka saves them with the Dina. She fights with Rathan, wins despite letting her play another song to control the armor. To buy time, the Pestra tell the Sandra and the Black Rabbit that she is the embodiment of the resentment and revenge of the 80 million people who died of the Black Plague, who want revenge on the sun, and therefore the Shiro who controls it. It will spread a dark red plague wind that will kill anyone it touches. And to prevent that, the Black Rabbit transports the heroes to the Moon Palace. Asuka uses the full potential of the Indra Spear that the Black Rabbit lent her to defeat the pest and thus finish the game. Later, the Asuka meets again with souls who tell the true story and leave her in the care of her 131st companion, the little fairy the girl calls Milin. And now all the heroes are trying to ennoble their community. My story is over, and if you liked my video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.